everyone, welcome to Statecraft IS Academy. We have started a new initiative called the Daily Current Affairs Discussion, and this is the 10th video of that series. PDF of this video is available on Statecraft Telegram channel, Statecraft website, as well as in the description box of this video. So let's get started with the current affairs. Our first topic of discussion is pathogen. So we have all heard about pathogen. So it is usually a microorganism that cause or can cause a disease. So it is a microorganism that causes disease, and our body generally full of microbes, that is the microorganisms, but these microbes only cause a problem if our immune system is weakened and if they manage to enter a normally sterile part of our body. So these pathogens can cause illness to their host through a variety of ways, and the most obvious one is through the direct damage of tissues or cells during replication, generally through the production of toxins which allow the pathogens to reach new tissues or exit the cells inside which is replicated. The human body's immune system actually acts as a defense against these pathogens. The body can easily fight off some pathogens, but others are potentially fatal. So there are 5 types of pathogens. You have heard about bacteria, fungi and virus. All these are actually pathogens. So the 5 types of pathogens include bacteria. It is a microscopic pathogen that reproduces rapidly after entering the body, and it releases toxins that damages tissues and can cause illness. Next, virus. It is smaller than bacteria. A virus usually invades the host cells and then replicates, producing hundreds and thousands of new viruses. Fungi. Actually, common fungal skin conditions include athlete's foot and ringworm, and these conditions are contagious and can spread through person-to-person contact. Next is protists. So it is a single cell organism that causes disease in their host. These protist pathogens also affect plants and food crops. And this protist can cause dysentery, which is an infection of the intestines that causes diarrhea. Protist pathogens can also be parasitic and live in other organisms such as mosquitoes. Next type of pathogen is parasitic worms. So they are also known as helminths and are they are large enough for people to see with the naked eyes, whereas these bacteria, virus and fungi, they are not visible to human beings' naked eye. These parasitic worms are visible and they can live in many areas of the body. Some examples include flatworms, and they include tapeworms which reside in the intestines. Next, thorny head worms. These type of worms lives in the intestines. Roundworms, they can survive in the gastrointestinal tract and lymphatic system. Our next topic is carbon capture, utilization and sequestration, which is also termed as CCUS. So it is a process to capture carbon dioxide emissions to either reuse it or store it so that it will not enter the atmosphere. So these emissions are usually sourced from coal fire power plants. Next, we'll talk about Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, which is termed as PFRDA. It is a statutory authority and has been established under the Act of the Parliament. It actually regulates, promotes and ensures orderly growth of the national pension system and the pension schemes to which this act applies. NPS was extended to all the Indian citizens, the resident, non-resident, voluntary, overseas on a voluntary basis, and to corporates for its employees. So you must go through national pension system and various other pension schemes as well. Next, we'll talk about services, e-health assistance and teleconsultation OPD portal, which is also known as Sehat portal. So this portal provides telemedicine services to the serving armed forces personnel, veterans and their families. So it's important to know that it provides service to only armed forces personnel, veterans and their families. The Department of Military Affairs, Armed Forces Medical Services, Integrated Defence Staff and Center for Development of Artificial Computing are involved in the development of this portal. And this portal will help reduce the load on hospitals, and patients will be able to get contactless consultations in an easy and effective manner. Next, our topic of discussion is mercury. So, a high mercury level has been found in the rivers. It is based on the study of nature geoscience. Greenland's glacial melt waters have unusually high levels of mercury. So, talking about mercury, it is a naturally occurring element that is found in air, water, and soil. It is released into the atmosphere through natural processes such as weathering of rocks, volcanic eruptions, geothermal activities, forest fires, etc. These mercuries are also released through human activities, and they may have toxic effects on the nervous system, digestive and immune system, and on lungs, kidneys, skin, and eyes. Also, the mercury is considered by World Health Organization as one of the top 10 chemicals or groups of chemicals of major public health concern. Next disease associated with mercury is Minamata disease. So it is a disorder that is caused by methyl mercury poisoning that was first described in the inhabitants of Minamata Bay, hence the name Minamata disease. And it resulted from their eating fish contaminated with mercury industrial waste. Next, there is also a convention related to mercury. So it is known as Minamata Convention. It is a UN treaty. The Minamata Convention on Mercury is a global treaty to protect human health from the adverse effects of mercury and its compounds. So it was entered into force in 2017, and controlling the anthropogenic releases of mercury is also one of the key obligations of the convention. It also addresses the interim storage of mercury and its disposal. Our next topic of discussion is IT Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. So recently Facebook has clarified that it aims to comply with the provisions of the Information Technology Rules 2021, which has come into effect. So talking about the new rules, it mandates a grievance redressal system for over-the-top, that is OTT platform, OTT and digital platforms, which includes Netflix, Hotstar, etc. So this is necessary for the users of social media to raise their grievance against the misuse of social media. Next, significant social media firms have to appoint a chief compliance officer. So here significant social media firms are those companies which have more than 50 lakh registered users, and they also have to have a nodal contact person who can be in touch with the law enforcement agencies 24/7. Next, social media platforms will also have to name a grievance officer who shall register grievances within 24 hours and dispose of it in 15 days. Also, if there are any complaints against the dignity of users, particularly women, about exposed private parts of the individuals or nudity or sexual act or impersonation, etc., these social media platforms will be required to remove that content within 24 hours after a complaint is made. And these firms also are required to publish a monthly report about the number of complaints received and the status of their redressal. Next, there will be a 3-level regulation for these new publishers. First is self-regulation. Second is a self-regulatory body, which would be headed by a retired judge or an eminent person. And also an oversight from the Information and Broadcasting Ministry, including codes of practices and a grievance committee. This self-regulatory body will oversee the adherence by the publishers to the code of ethics and address grievances that have not been resolved by the publisher within 15 days. Next, the social media platforms are required to identify the first originator of the content that authorities considered anti-national. They are required to appoint a grievance officer, as mentioned before. They are also have to file monthly compliance report on complaints received and action taken. And related to digital news, they have to follow Press Council of India, Cable TV Networks Acts and Norms, and self-regulatory bodies will be required to oversee the adherence to the code of ethics, and Information and Broadcasting Ministry will form a panel for oversight mechanism. About the OTT platforms, they are required to self-classify content into 5 age-based categories, that is universal, U/A 7+ years, then 13+years, and then 16+years, and A. So the parental locks for any content classified as 13+years and above. Also, age verification mechanism for content classified as A, that is adult. They are also required to remove objectionable content. So these objectionable content actually includes information which threatens security or sovereignty of the country, disturbs public order, which is defamatory, obscene, pornographic, and paedophilic, invasive or another's privacy, harmful to minors, infringes any patent, trademarks, copyright, or other property rights. WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube are legally bound to remove objectionable content within stipulated times, and intermediaries bound to remove content within 36 hours when asked through a court order on being notified by the government or its agency. Next, we'll talk about marriage trends. So, compared to a decade ago, Indian youth are now marrying later in life. So, as per a study, that is SDS Youth Studies, which took place in 2016, it shows that the proportion of married youth decreased by 8% point from 55% in 2007 to 47% in 2016. And a much higher share of young men are unmarried as compared to women. So there are more number of men who are unmarried as compared to women. Also, educational attainment is an important factor behind it. So there is an observation that a decline in the proportion of married youth was related to successive levels of education. Also, in the age of online dating and growth of social networking and matrimonial sites, still arranged marriages are a preferred choice, and around 84% of the married youth in 2016 said their marriage was decided by families, and only 6% reported self-choice. Around 31% of the youth said their parents will have or had a lot of influence on their marriage decisions, and this influence was greater for women than men. Also, the study shows that marriage across caste and religion is still not accepted in an arranged marriage setup. So, to sum up, the youth are marrying late. The institutions of marriage, arranged marriage, is still intact. Marrying across caste or religion is still not as much accepted, and the attitude to marriage remains within the boundaries of traditional thinking. So these points can be used in mains questions related to society and marriage. Next, we'll talk about one-stop center scheme. So the central government will set up one-stop centers across 10 missions to provide assistance to Indian women who are survivors of gender-based violence. So talking about the scheme, it is popularly known as Sakhi. It is a centrally sponsored scheme of Ministry of Women and Child Development. Next, it is a sub-scheme of the umbrella scheme, National Mission for Empowerment of Women. And this one-stop center will support all women, including girls below the age of 18 years, affected by violence, irrespective of caste, class, religion, region, sexual orientation, or marital status. These one-stop centers will be established across the country to provide integrated support and assistance under one roof to women affected by violence, both in private and public spaces. Important point to note here is the funding. So the scheme is funded through Nirbhaya Fund, and the central government provides 100% financial assistance to the state governments and the UTs. See, this Nirbhaya Fund was established for women's safety pertaining to the strategic areas of prevention, protection, and rehabilitation. See, three main agenda are prevention, protection, and rehabilitation. And this Nirbhaya Fund, it is a non-lapsable fund which is administered by the Department of Economic Affairs of Ministry of Finance. And this fund is utilized for the projects and initiatives related to women's safety. And auditing of the scheme will be done by Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and social audit will also be undertaken by civil society groups. This one-stop centers will be integrated with the women helplines to provide following services such as emergency response and rescue service, medical assistance, assistance to women in lodging the FIR, psychosocial support and counseling, legal aid and counseling, CELTO, video conferencing facility. This Usha Mehra Commission has actually recommended for the establishment of these one-stop centers to help the victims of sexual assault and ensure speedy punishment to the culprits. Talking about gender-based violence, so it is a global health and human rights and development issue that transcends global geography, class, culture, age, race, and religion to affect every community and country in every corner of the world. So their gender-based violence exists in every community, in every country, and every corner of the world. So, talking about India, this exists in various forms like domestic and sexual violence, including rape. Also, harmful practices such as dowry, honor killing, acid attacks, witch hunting, sexual harassment, child sexual abuse, trafficking of commercial sexual exploitation, trafficking for commercial sexual exploitation, child marriage, sex selective abortion, sati, etc. So this also happens due to the inequities in the social life, more particularly in the times of displacement and also when there is a communal incidents. So all for today, guys. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.